Hi, my name is Scott from the Economics Tutoring Center, and today I'm going to be talking about income elasticity of demand. So make sure to check my notation and language with your professor because it may vary. So to start, we have a table written up here, and it has some important information. We have income, so we have these two different levels of income, and for each one we have a quantity purchased of these three different goods: cars, margarine, and coffee. And we want to know, I'm going to do the income elasticity of demand for these two, for margarine and coffee. So there's a formula for income elasticity of demand, and it's just denoted by this N with the subscript I, and it equals percent change in demand over percent change in income. And a lot of professors use the midpoint method to do this, which means they average demand and income in these formulas. So using the midpoint method, this is what the formula looks like for income elasticity of demand. It looks a little nastier than it is, so I'll walk through it with these two examples and we'll see how it works. So let's start with margarine. And when I have these subscript 1 and 2, it just means sort of the 1s go with the 1s and the 2s go with the 2s. So we'll just call income 1 is the 25,000, income 2 is the 50,000. So D1, or demand 1, is in the row with the 25,000, demand 2 is in the second row. So if we use this formula for margarine, we have D2 minus D1, 8 minus 10 over, and then we average the two, so 8 plus 10 over 2. And so that's our percent change in demand. Then on bottom, we do the same thing with income. So 50,000 minus 25,000. And you can actually do the same thing. You can just do 50 and 25 because it's a percent change. It will work out the same, but I'll use the thousands. So then we average the two using the midpoint method. And this is our formula with the numbers plugged in. I'll make this thick to make the distinction. This is percent change in demand on top over percent change in income. If you follow along with your calculator, you can figure out that on top we have negative 2 over 9 for the percent change in demand. On the bottom we have 2/3. And then if you do that with your calculator or algebraically, that should work out to negative 1/3. So that's the that's the income elasticity of demand for margarine in this example. And there's a few important things you can notice about the number. First of all, it's negative, and what that tells you is that as income increases, demand for the product actually decreases. And you can kind of just see that in the table. Income goes up, and at the same time the quantity purchased goes down for margarine. And in economics we call that an inferior good, where your income goes up but your demand goes down. And then the magnitude of the number, the 1/3, tells you that demand is not very sensitive to the income, and we call that inelastic. And then so we can do the same thing with coffee now. So let's we have coffee, and it's the same formula, we just have different numbers. So D2 minus D1, so 3 minus 1, then you average the two here. So that's our percent change in demand. And then we do the same thing with the percent change in income. I'll write it out again, but it will be the same because the income's the same as it was for margarine. So it'll be the same percent change in income. And again, if you follow along with your calculator, on top we'll get 1, get 2 over 2. And the bottom here, as before, the percent change in income was 2/3. So this works out to be 3/2. So that's the income elasticity of demand for coffee in this example. And now we can see our numbers positive, and that means that as your income goes up, your demand goes up. And you can see that in the table again. Coffee demand goes up. And in economics, we call that a normal good. And this time, 3/2 is a bigger magnitude than 1/3. Remember, it was -1/3 for margarine. And that tells you that your demand changes more in response to a change in income. We call that, when this number is greater than 1 in magnitude, we say that your demand is elastic with respect to income. So that's sort of what the number tells you about the economics. And so yeah, that's how to calculate income elasticity of demand. You use this formula. This is the midpoint method. And I hope it helped. If you have any other questions, come into the tutoring center or ask your instructor.